What's up, everybody? Good afternoon. We're going to take another video here to talk about one player in particular. Yeah, that's right. We're going to have to talk a little bit more about this guy because I'm not sure it's possible to overstate what this guy is doing. I'm talking about Devon Witherspoon. So let's think about Devon Witherspoon for a second here. This guy missed most of the offseason. This guy missed so many training camp sessions. This guy missed practices after the season started. This guy missed the whole preseason. This guy missed practices because of his mini 2-day holdout. Like, this guy missed so much time that is so valuable to young players. Like, we're seeing right now that missing most of the offseason might have done some real damage to Woolen. And Woolen's a second-year player. So Witherspoon being a rookie, it should be devastating to him. And despite me saying that, like, everything I just said makes sense. And here we are with Devon Witherspoon being maybe the best player on this team and maybe being the best player at his position in the NFL and maybe being on track to do something that the Seahawks have never done before and maybe doing something that is historic. So let's look at some things here. Let's talk more about Devon Witherspoon because there's some really interesting special stuff that's going on here. And there's some great stuff in play. And now that we're 6 games into the season and Witherspoon's played 5 games, I feel comfortable at least discussing this, right? You don't want to get too far ahead of yourself. I wouldn't have made this video after the first couple games, but I think it's time for us to start actually treating this with some gravitas. So let's just talk about the impact on this team. Let's just talk about the impact on this defense's ability to play at a high level. Hawkblogger had this tweet earlier today, and it sums it up extremely well. The Seahawks played 1 game with no Witherspoon on the field, and the defense was bad. Defense was awful. Defense was as bad as we've seen in the Pete Carroll era, more or less. And since Witherspoon took the field in week 2, by EPA per play measures, we are second in the NFL on defense. We are ranked second behind only the mighty Cleveland Browns defense. And you can see some of the defenses we are ranked above. The Ravens, the Niners, the Chiefs. Now, obviously, there are other things going on within that. It's not just Witherspoon, but this is a great indication on how big an impact Spoon is having here. Like, what changed more in this defense than getting Witherspoon on the field going from week 1 to week 2? What changed more? I mean, we've gotten Jamal Adams back for the last couple games. That's nice. And I think Jamal Adams has played quite well, but I don't think that's had the impact of Witherspoon getting out there. We've gotten, I mean, Boye Mafe was kind of invisible the first game and he was injured the second game. He's come back. He's played well. That's been big. But is that as meaningful as Witherspoon getting on the field? I don't think so. So that, you have this. You have just this simple statistic right here. Since Witherspoon became the starting cornerback on the Seahawks in week 2, we have the second best defense in the league by EPA per play, which is probably a far better indicator of how good your defense is than most other typical box score type stats, right? So that's just impact on this team, which is incredible and phenomenal. But let's go a step beyond here. Let's talk about what Witherspoon is doing relative to the rest of the league, because in the irony of ironies, in the incredible, just remarkable turnaround from where a lot of Seahawks fans were a few months ago, Defensive Rookie of the Year, let's start talking about that, because it's a 2-man race at the moment. Devon Witherspoon, who's played in 5 games, so he missed the first game and he's had his bye week, who's piling up tackle stats, and it's not meaningless tackle stats. His tackles mean something. The way he hits and the way he wraps up, the way he brings ball carriers down on first contact, like, these are good tackles. These are not just the cheap tackles that you get because you allow a bunch of easy completions and come up and you make the tackle. No. His tackle stats are incredible. He's got 2 sacks and other QB pressures. He's been very effective on the blitz. He's one of the best players in the league at getting his hands on the ball. He's got that game-changing national TV pick six. He's got 8 passes defensed, which we'll talk more about that in a minute here. Like, he is doing everything at such a high level. Like, what is he not doing? What does he not bring to the table? Like, size? Who cares? Who cares if you're small when you're tackling and hitting this well? And PFF, I mean, take a look at this. PFF, 88.5. More on that in a minute here, but look at how high he is graded in every area. Look at how highly PFF thinks of this guy. Again, a guy who missed most of the offseason. So, if this guy doesn't win Defensive Rookie of the Year, then it's going to be this guy. It's Jalen Carter. This is the only other guy. This is the irony of ironies that I was talking about. It's after Seahawks fans, many of them, spent most of this offseason throwing a fit about us not taking Carter and taking Witherspoon instead. Now they're far and away the 2 best defensive players that were in the most recent draft. And I don't hear anybody complaining about it anymore. I haven't heard a word about Jalen Carter in my comments in a couple weeks now. That's how good this guy has been. The fact that Jalen Carter has been as advertised, and Seahawks fans are still not saying anything anymore because Witherspoon is just that good. But Carter, he's obviously part of a pretty good defense, although it's not been as good as it was last year. 3.5 sacks, 13 tackles, 5 tackles for loss, lots of QB pressures. He's forced a couple fumbles. And PFF, I mean, they're all over him too. 91.3 overall grade. Obviously, mostly because of his impact as a pass rusher opposed to a run defender. But either way, it is a 2-man race. Like, Will Anderson's really good. I like Will Anderson a lot. But he's not going to get involved unless he steps it up big time. He's going to have to start making a lot of plays. Brian Branch got hurt. Christian Gonzalez got hurt. There's really not much of anybody else in the race, I don't think. I don't believe that there's anybody else who could even be in the conversation for Defensive Rookie of the Year. So, yeah, we are talking about very possibly. And obviously, it's going to be tough to top the Jalen Carter hype because he was such a known commodity before the draft even happened. And he's part of such a good team. But we are in a position here to have the first ever Defensive Rookie of the Year that the Seahawks have ever had. There's one guy to beat. There's really one guy to beat right now. All Witherspoon has to do is maintain the course, and he's going to have a chance. But let's go even beyond that. Let's go beyond Defensive Rookie of the Year. Is Devon Witherspoon playing at an all-pro level? And I'm not talking second team. Is Devon Witherspoon, through the first 7 weeks of the regular season, an all-pro cornerback? Let's think about this for a second here, because PFF has him at number 1 right now by a pretty wide margin. They have him as the highest-ranked cornerback in the entire NFL by 3 full points over Jalen Johnson. So, if you ask PFF, they might say, he missed a game, he's already had his bye week, he needs to play a little bit more. But I think they would make a very persuasive argument in favor of Devon Witherspoon being an all-pro first-team cornerback this year. So, yeah, there's at least an argument to be made. Because if you look at some of these other guys that are ranked really high, they're not going to make all-pro in all likelihood, because part of making the all-pro team is your reputation. If you have a positive reputation, you're going to have a much better chance of making it. So a guy like a Joey Porter Jr., who's playing really well so far this year, or a Darius Williams, or, like I said, Jalen Johnson, are they going to make it when they're not super well-known commodities like Witherspoon is becoming? Because Witherspoon's getting there, I'll tell you. I mean, with the game that he had against the Giants on Monday Night Football with the whole world watching, people know about that guy now. He's not just somebody that we know about because we watch every game. He's somebody that the national media is becoming very aware of. Like, you take a look at these other players that PFF has graded highly. I mean, Gonzalez is hurt, so he's kind of off the table anyway. But you got a guy like Rasul Douglas. Is he somebody that the league would look at as an all-pro caliber cornerback? I'm not convinced. Like you've got Trent McDuffie. He might have that rep because he's on such a good team and he's been improving as a player over the last couple years. You've got guys like DJ Reed, but I don't think DJ Reed's looked at in that way either. You got Chavarius Ward, but realistically, a lot of the guys that have the all-pro reputation in the NFL at cornerback are not playing as well this year. Like, look at Sauce Gardner. His grade is way lower than it was last year. He's not, PFF does not think he's playing at an all pro level. You've got, what's another example? A great example would be Jalen Ramsey. He isn't even playing yet. Pat Surtain, he's playing good, but he's on such a bad defense. I don't think he's going to be able to overcome that. Pat Surtain might be disqualified just because he's going to end up on the worst defense in the league this year. Tre'Davious White is injured. He's another guy who's got a really positive reputation. Marshawn Lattimore, his grade's down a little bit so far this year. So when you take a look at the guys he's going to be going up against, it's not hard to imagine Witherspoon ending up as an all-pro because, like think about Trayvon Diggs. He's out for the season. It's not going to be him. Trayvon Diggs is not going to make all-pro. And again, I've already kind of looked at the stats here, but you take a look at the numbers. Look at passes defensed or pass breakups. Witherspoon is third in the league in pass breakups despite playing in 2 less games than the other top guys. He's got 8. The top guy has 11 despite having played in 2 more games. So he is making plays on the ball in a way that these other cornerbacks just aren't. And that doesn't even include what he's doing against the run. That doesn't include what he's doing as a blitzer. Like, he's one of the best blitzing cornerbacks in the league through the first part of the season. Like, really, is Witherspoon an all-pro cornerback so far? It seems to me that the answer is probably yes. Now, not working in his favor is the fact that he lost a sack and an interception because of penalties in the Cardinals game. If he was sitting on a multiple interception game, a multiple interception season with a 3rd sack, then people would probably be feeling a little bit differently about this to where maybe he'd even be a Defensive Rookie of the Year favorite. Maybe he'd even be an all-pro favorite, but he gets those 2 big plays taken off the board, which, I mean, Kobe Bryant went through this last year, right? Kobe Bryant did this last year, and now Witherspoon's having to go through it, which, I mean, that's not fun. But even with it, this guy's playing incredible football. And it's starting to become a very interesting conversation here on whether or not, for the 2nd year in a row, we might have a rookie cornerback not only win Defensive Rookie of the Year, but make the All-Pro team. Because remember, Sauce was first-team All-Pro last year, so it can happen. It doesn't happen often, but if it's going to happen, it's probably going to happen for a guy who is as good as Witherspoon is. Because honestly, through the first part of the season, isn't Witherspoon playing better than Sauce was last year? Like, Sauce was locked down in coverage, but he wasn't doing the run support stuff. He wasn't doing the tackling stuff. He wasn't doing the QB pressure stuff. And it's not like Sauce Gardner is some Champ Bailey making 8 to 10 interceptions a year either. He had a couple interceptions last year. So the interception shouldn't even really hurt him in that comparison. So yeah, seems to me Witherspoon is right there with him. All right, I will see you guys later. Go Hawks. And we just had to take a video here to celebrate what Witherspoon is doing because he is playing some all-time great rookie cornerback football. This is one of the best seasons that we've ever seen from any rookie cornerback. And I don't think enough can be said about it. All right, see you guys later. Go Hawks.